Hello, what you eat is very important. Good morning and welcome, particularly to the young people who listen to me from time to time. What we eat is very important. Suppose something very exciting happens in your life. Suppose you are a tennis player, you're on the circuit, you won a WTA championship. You're elated, you're ecstatic, and you're in a mood to celebrate. The question is, how would you celebrate? In all likelihood, you would take half a dozen or maybe 10, 20 of your friends to a 5-star hotel and have a hearty meal. I don't think you will celebrate by saying, come, let's go into a library and read books. Or you would say, come, let's celebrate my WTA victory by doing some social work or by kneeling down and praying. 99% chances are that you would say, come, let's go and eat in a very special place. So eating plays a very important role in life, and Jesus recognized that. That's the reason why in the most crowning moment of his life, on the eve of his departure from the world and separation, physical separation from his disciples, he celebrated a meal with them. If you examine the Jewish culture, you'll see how important food is for the Jews. It's not only for the Jews, for everyone it is so, but for Jews, eating seems to have a very special overtone or nuance, or whatever you'd like to put it. So, in the Indian context, for example, where vegetarianism is sort of promoted and insisted upon, there is this very strong notion that what you eat influences you. In particular, with reference to eating non-vegetarian food, it's believed that if you eat the flesh of an animal, the state of emotion in which the animal was at the point at which it was killed enters you through what you eat, and therefore you acquire more and more animal-like or beastly emotions, inclinations, etc. So you compromise the purity of your being by consuming animal flesh. Now Jesus celebrates this meal, but then something very interesting happens. It begins as a good meal, a hearty meal, very carefully prepared meal. How sumptuous it is, we do not know. We don't have the menu card for it, but we do know that this is a meal that Jesus planned for in advance, to which he attached very special significance. But the most important thing about this meal is that in the course of it, he effects a shift in the experience of the meal. From being a physical meal, it becomes a spiritual meal. And what is the message contained in that? What is the heart of the sacramental experience that Jesus so very carefully and intentionally provided to his disciples, the most important moment of their life? It is this idea, make no doubt about it. Let's not remain confused about this anymore. It is this idea that what you eat is important, and therefore you need also to mind your need for higher food, higher food, higher food. The problem with the modern world, the problem of the consumerist, pleasure-seeking, materialist culture, is that it has ample resources, abundant resources, to cater to the ordinary physical taste bud needs of human beings. They're culturally elaborated and romanticized and attached a lot of value to, etc. But it has absolutely no resource to feed your higher hunger. And the message that is embedded in the fellowship meal that Jesus celebrated with his disciples is that we need both. In fact, this message or this insight is already anticipated in the very first temptation that Jesus faced when Satan tempted him to use his powers to turn stones into bread, Jesus responded by saying, "Man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God." In other words, Jesus says, if you want to be human, you have to also wake up to your higher needs. No human being is a stomach alone. Everyone has a stomach. The saint and the sinner have stomachs, but nobody should be a stomach. There are many people about whom others feel that they are only stomachs. And in fact, when we practice hospitality, quite sadly, we behave as though people who are coming into us are only stomachs. So we try to lay out a big spread for them, without realizing that perhaps people come, more and more people would come, or more among the people who come to you are people who are in greater need of something more than what pleases the belly. And you have that insight in the interaction between Jesus on the one hand, Martha and Mary on the other in that small house in Bethany. Mary knew what we all ought to know, that there is a different kind of hospitality. In the social kind of hospitality, the burdensome thing is that you have to lay it on. The woman has to work and work and work. And she does so under the cultural, social fallacy that the man who is coming in to be the guest is only a stomach. But Mary knew better. And that's what Jesus says. Mary has chosen the better part. That better part is the understanding that there is a higher need. Jesus' need is not just belly cheer, need for belly cheer. Jesus' need is for the spiritual cheer of being able to impart something of the eternal light that he is. And this Mary realized. So she practiced her hospitality by sitting at his feet and listening to him, forgetting herself intently. That's hospitality of the higher kind. Now, all these episodes are there, and I'm speaking particularly to young people, in order to make us realize that there are higher needs embedded in each one of us, and we need to be constantly aware of our duty to nourish these needs. Unfortunately, the cultural training that we gets us obsessed only with physical hunger, therefore physical delights. The higher emotional, intellectual, spiritual needs and delights are neglected, much to the detriment of the wholesome development of our personality. Your personality will be very different when you move from the merely physical to the intellectual. You know, if you look at a person who is intellectually developed properly, you'll actually see, if you watch closely enough, with some degree of spiritual sensitivity, you will see a gentle light around him. Well, why only intellectually developed people? You know, I was crazy about classical music. I used to go and attend classical concerts given by Pandit ᴡᴏᴜᴛဃ, ᴛᴏᴜᴛ, etc. Now, Ravi Shankar in particular, he would start his recital on the sitar. And after a while, when I would be totally absorbed in what he's doing, and he's completely absorbed with what he's playing, and he's no longer on the face of the earth. When I look at his face, I would see light. This is not an exaggeration. You will see light. And that light is the light of development. He developed himself to the uttermost in relation to a particular skill, a particular gift. The same thing applies to our intellectual development. When I met with Mother Teresa, for example, frankly, let me tell you, I thought I was in the presence of light. But that was light of a different kind. It's a spiritual light. So your personality assumes a different order of beauty and power as you develop the higher and higher dimensions of your personality. The intellectual, the emotional, the intellectual, the spiritual. But unfortunately, these dimensions are neglected because it's not fashionable in our culture today, the materialistic culture, which delights in discounting these realities and insists that only matter is real and matter alone matters. as Joseph Conrad said in one of his articles written in the wake of the sinking of the Titanic early in the 20th century. Matter alone matters. So that which is beyond the scope of matter, the non-material resources of life, or what T.S. Eliot calls the metaphysical music behind the wings of life. We have no ear to listen to that music. That's not because there is no music, it's because we have not developed our ears to listen to that, to capture the divine vibrations of that soul-stirring music. So, my request, I don't advise young people, my request to young people is, please mind the art of developing your personality. There is no greater justice you can do to yourself than developing your personality in a wholesome and holistic fashion, which means developing every aspect of your personality. So, in the college where I taught, the motto was ad Dei gloriam, to the glory of God. And the educational vision was simply the development of the total person of every student. And there is a connection between this educational goal and the motto of the institution. Because only when education seeks to develop the total personality of a student does its practice contribute to the glory of God, or honor God, and enable the beneficiaries of that practice of medicine to become aware of God, honor God, and therefore maintain honoring God as the guiding compass of their life. I'm always challenged by the insight that Saint Ignatius of Loyola had, the great founder of Jesuit education. You know that Jesuit educations are universally respected. They maintain a very high quality, high standard of education. He said that the knowledge that we impart through the education that we practice must be such that knowledge leads people to God. There is this assumption that, since Paul wrote that thought-provoking and sometimes unfortunate verse, the first verse of the 8th chapter of the first letter to Corinthians, knowledge puffs up, love builds up. So there is this negative reflection about the value or worth of knowledge, which may be true in a very narrow context, but I'm not for the blanket condemnation and the rejection of knowledge as an avenue for godliness. So certainly Ignatius of Loyola believed as I do, that true knowledge can lead us to God. And the insignia or the hallmark of Christian education, or the Christian practice of education, must be that the education that we provide to young people must be such that it leads them towards God. And that is also an aspect of personality building. At least it is so in the educational vision of St. Stephen's College, where an educated person, as per the vision of St. Stephen's, must be one whose personality is developed in a holistic and wholesome fashion, which means the all-round development of a student. Therefore, a lot of emphasis was laid in the spiritual formation of students. But over a period of time, this got attenuated, and the idea that college is purely secular, which also means merely materialistic, took hold of it, as a result of which the original vision was lost sight of. The college suffered in the process, its foundation was weakened, and God gave me the opportunity to address that issue. It turned out to be a huge undertaking with serious implications, and the turmoil that it created has been recorded in my memoir titled On a Stormy Course. You can get it from amazon.in. I suggest that it's a worthy read, even though I'm the author. Please look up that book. You will be amazed to see what it means to rebuild the ruined spiritual foundations of an education, an institution of educational excellence in the Indian context. So again, coming back to our core theme of developing your personality and the need to feed the higher hungers of your being, the need to feed the higher hungers of your personality. That's the theme. That's the focus of this video. And I hope it makes some sense. Obviously, I've not covered every aspect of it. That was not the intention either. The limited aim of, or the limited goal of this presentation is to make you aware of the fact that the development of your personality will remain an unfinished agenda if your higher hungers are not minded or taken care of. And one of the reasons why I started this YouTube channel is actually to cater to the needs of the young people to develop themselves in the manner that I have referred to, this holistic all-round fashion, for which no education today caters to, and therefore young people need to avail themselves of the sort of facilities available to them through sources like this in order to ensure that they develop themselves in a holistic fashion, because the scope of fulfillment in their life depends entirely on this. As ᴡᴏᴜᴛဃ writes in one of his books, and I think it is a book titled Moral Individual in an Immoral Society. Moral Individual in an Immoral Society. He says that, I'm sorry, it's not ᴡᴜᴜᴜᴜ, it is nature. The more we have, the more crushed we become. We're defeated by our victories, and we are crushed by our achievements. So, and all this happens precisely because we don't develop our personality. Because if our personality is not developed, we would not know what to do with our trophies and our achievements. And we will either not use them properly or we misuse them, and they become sources of mischief rather than remain landmarks of our blessing. So there is a need to mind this aspect of your life, and this is the time to do it. If I may quote a verse from the Old Testament, the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 12, verse 1, it says, remember your Creator while you are young. Remember your Creator while you are young. If you do so, then you will know that your personality is a mysterious phenomenon, and therefore, in order to do justice to the incredible, breathtaking possibilities embedded in you, you need guidance from beyond yourself, and that guidance is available in a godly vision of life alone. And my own personal experience is that the teachings of Jesus Christ, or the light that Jesus is, has played a very beneficial and major influence or role in ensuring the comparatively healthier development of my personality. Therefore, whatever I've included in this video is only in the form of a witness, personal witness, for the sake of those who might benefit from it. So there it is. You're substantially influenced by what you eat, but what you eat must be decided not merely in terms of one part of your anatomy, which is your stomach. There are other aspects of your personality that also hunger, and they are referred to as the higher hungers of the human being. They need to be attended to, and your personality should not be starved to death. Rather, your personality must be fed in a rich and empowering fashion. And that ensures the beauty and greatness of your being. And there is no higher greatness than the greatness of developing your personality in an all-round manner, which then ensures that your life is fruitful and you become, as per the vision given to Abraham by God, as recorded in the 12th chapter of the book of Genesis, you will become a blessing on the land. Thank you.